There. Good morning, everybody. Hey, how's it going? It's a rainy Monday morning here in Southern California. Usually sunny Southern California, but today it's a bit rainy and kind of makes it for a kind of cozy day for drawing. So welcome to my Post-it pop art live stream series during this coronavirus stay-at-home order, where many of us are home from either our work, our school, or whatever reason. So hopefully you'll find some fun and entertainment during this live stream. Maybe a little encouragement, and maybe you learn a little something if you're an artist too. Maybe some of my tips and tricks will help you with your art. And if you're just here for the fun of it, so glad you're here for whatever reason. Please feel free to draw along with me. You don't have to draw on a Post-it note. I'm going to be drawing on this purple Post-it note. I got brand new Post-its. One moment here. So I got this. Got to give a shout out to Art of Plo. He is an artist that I've interacted with online, and he had shown me that he had gotten some colored Post-its, and I'm like, I don't have those colors. So did a little research on Amazon, found these. They're the Post-it limited edition pack. So if you're interested, if you like to draw on Post-it notes and want some of these colors, just search Post-it limited edition on Amazon, and you can get some too. Now, I bought these. This is not a promotion or plug for Post-it. It just is just showing you some of the colors I got and that we'll be using. So this is not an endorsement in any regard whatsoever. I paid good money to get these so that I could draw on them. So just want to make that clear here at the top of the show. So we're going to draw Magneto today. Magneto, villain of the X-Men. Then ally of the X-Men, then an actual X-Man, then a villain again, and then an ally, and back and forth. You know, it's always a lot of drama with the X-Men. That's why we have so much fun reading those comics. So enough jibba jabba. Let's flip the camera around and let's get to drawing. Easier said than done. There we go. There we are. Let me readjust the rig here. Got to find a better way to do this, and we will get drawing. Oh, readjust the light. Get the light back up over here. So, yeah, so I'm really excited for some of these colors here. The kind of variation of colors, but they're not too dark. So the line and the marker color will really translate nicely, I think, on some of these colors. So it should be a lot of fun. Now, feel free to draw along with whatever tools you're using. I'm going to start with my, you guys know what I'm going to use, my Unikura Toga 0.3 HB lead mechanical pencil. But use whatever pencil you're using, whatever you have available. Use whatever paper you have available, and use whatever skills you have available. And draw as you might want. Feel free to draw along or draw your own thing. So we start with a circle, start with the top of the skull. Now, because Magneto wears a helmet, the temptation is to draw a helmet and then put the face inside. And I've done that in the past, in my youth. And the face never really lined up correctly with what was supposed to be under the helmet. It always looked a bit too wonky, too out of place. So I think, at least for me, other artists' results may vary, but for me, I want to draw the whole head and figure out all the placements of the facial features, then draw the helmet around appropriately so that things fit together appropriately. So we got the skull of the circle for the skull of the head, lines coming down for the side of the jaw, then pull that jaw down to the chin. And he has a pretty strong chin. It's not too pointy of a face, but it's not too square of a jaw, so kind of splitting the difference there. And this will give me the basic shape for his head. Then he's got, Magneto's in pretty good shape, so, you know, he's got a, you know, I don't want to give him too thin of a neck. He's not a pencil neck, but he's not like a big, massive Hulk-sized neck. So that's kind of how the neck muscles will pull. And when I sketch out every, you know, just because I draw in all the muscles doesn't mean I necessarily will ink all the muscles, but I like to know where everything is. Now we're going to put a center line, or the eye line here, right in the center of his face. Top of the head to the top of the chin, or top of the chin, top of the head to the bottom of the chin. You want to go halfway, and that's generally where the eye line's going to be. Halfway from the eye line to the chin, roughly. Nose line, another half. These are just kind of some real ballpark proportions here, just kind of generalized. So I'm going to figure out where his eyes are, because we will see his eyes. Now my best tip is to put one eye on each side. Unless you're Pablo Picasso, then put the eyes wherever you want them to be. You're Picasso, who's going to argue with you. But my suggestion, put one on each side. And the width between the two eyes is oftentimes one full eye. And then it's like one eye width to the side of the head, generally. But some people have more wide set eyes, some people have more narrow set eyes, so you can vary that. Go figure out his nose here, so usually start with a little diamond shape, the little tip of the nose. Then the nostrils here. Just want to make sure I know the shape of everything. The bridge of the nose, so the eyebrows. Don't know if we'll see his eyebrows, but I'll work them in just so I can, because I'm working on capturing the mood of Magneto. Let's see, I'm gonna bring in my, where's my click eraser? Sometimes when I scribble too much, I can't, I've used up all the real estate, so I can't really get the details in that I need to pencil in. So I'll erase some of my guideline there so I can then go back and, because I have like no room for his pupils and irises, the details inside of his eyes. So just clear out a little clean spot so that I can then sculpt in more exacting detail for those pencils. And I kind of break down some more parts of his face here. From the center of the eyes down to the chin. Helps me know about how wide to make his mouth. Pulling here kind of helps me see his kind of cheekbone structure a little bit. There's that little divot between our nose and our top lip. It's called a philtrum. P-H-I-L-T-R-U-M, a philtrum. So that kind of helps me know right where the top of the lip is, so I can do the bottom part of the top lip. We're going to have him scowling, so I'm going to pull those sides of his mouth down. Because we're doing villain version of Magneto, not hero Magneto. So, just want to arc that mouth even further there. Because the mouth is frowning, I'm going to put a little shadow here, maybe a little bit of line of the pull of that muscle pulls down. Just going to break the chin down a little bit more. Just the shapes. Now these shapes are just guidelines for me that will help me when I move into the inking stage. I know what my shapes are, and that will help inform what lines do I want to pick to translate those shapes, to communicate those shapes. So all of this is the underdrawing. I'm even going to figure out where the ears are. Magneto's ears are not seen inside because of his helmet, but I like to have an idea of where they might be. The helmet might push the ears in a little bit, and that's okay. It's just good to know where they are. Didn't take long to do that, and it will just help me with information. That's what these lines are right here now. It's all just information. So let's see. How are we looking there? Make sure my eyes are as lined up correctly as possible. Clear out a little bit of that so I can see. See the shapes I'm working with. Start to put in start with the color part of his eye, the iris. And then inside of that is the black part of the eyeball, which is called the pupil. And the pupil, the black part, can change shapes. It can be a small circle, it can be a big circle. If it's a big circle, if it's a big circle of black, that means it's brighter out because, or no, it's darker out because the pupil is what lets the light in so it can see. So if it's too dark, the pupil goes bigger to try to let in more light. If it's very bright out, the pupil goes smaller to let in less light. If I am remembering my high school biology correctly. Okay, so now I know what Magneto's head and face look like. Now I can start to build his helmet. His helmet is what's going to be most recognizable. This could be anybody. I could make that Lex Luthor. I can make that. Who else could I make that? I can make that any number of characters. Maybe Drax the Destroyer. I can make it just about anybody. I mean, right now I'm just thinking bald people because I have no hair on there. I could put hair on there and I can make it Bruce Wayne. I could make it just about anybody. But it's time to put a helmet on here and we're going to make this Magneto. So I have all sorts of Magneto reference pulled up of Magneto drawn through the ages, just so I can get the details of his helmet just right. Because several different artists have drawn his helmet in different ways. So I want to try to get those details of his helmet as accurate as possible. So we're going to start with the point, the center point. I want to kind of bring it down, and I can get stylistic here, as stylistic as I want. I could have it come way down, I could have it further up. I can make these choices as I go. Capture the essence of his helmet, but then also bring in my own approach or choices as I desire. As long as it translates as this is Magneto. So we're creating the part that goes around his face, and then we'll build to the outside of his helmet. So this is it has the part that goes around his eyes, and it comes down. So I'm going around the eyes, and then we pull down, straight down, past his chin. So now we can start to see the helmet coming together. So all this part of his face, we won't even need anymore. But it's good to know where it is so that as I build the helmet around him, so we can now arc the helmet kind of back up, because his helmet kind of goes back, kind of goes up and then goes back down behind him, but we won't really quite see that. The helmet just goes a little bit, we're just going to go a little bit beyond the skull, kind of arcing it around like that, and then it kind of curves back towards the back there. It's kind of pushing his hair down there at the top of the helmet. So it just has a little lift above the top of the skull. Curve it around, bring it down, flare it out just a little bit like we flared out the other side. And now it's really starting to, it's like, okay, there's a helmet on that guy's head. But as you can see, the underdrawing here, these lines will disappear. They are not necessary anymore, but they were necessary so I could build my helmet as accurately as possible. Because if I just drew a helmet and then tried to stick his facial features inside, I stand a greater risk of it not lining up and not looking believable that there's an actual human head and face inside. So now it's time to put the details that go around his, got an eyelash there, around his, the open part of his, that's the word I was looking for, open part of his helmet. So this one takes a little bit more time. There's a bit more to construct here. So this video might be a little bit longer. A little bit. Come on, let's get this dialogue out. A little bit longer of a live stream than usual. But I figure it's worth it to take the time to show this is kind of how I go about constructing the character. So he has got these little points that stick out at the corners. This will really, y'all don't mind? You don't mind it being a longer live stream? I appreciate that. Thank you so much, gang. I appreciate that. So glad you're here hanging out with me this day, getting this week started. Hope you're having a good start to your week, all things considered. And then we're just going to mirror the same arcs on this other side of his helmet to have a uniform matching zigzaggy design. We're going to come in with Copic color here in a little bit, so we're really going to get some fun colors and shadows going on in here for his face. And then he's got this kind of diamond horseshoe shape thingy on the center of his helmet. So we're going to just draw a diamond there. So start with a diamond now. I've seen this drawn all sorts of different shapes and ways. So, you know, I guess there's no wrong way. I mean, they're all essentially a diamond with this curved kind of, I always thought of it as a horseshoe when I was a kid because he's a Magneto, so I'd think of like a magnet. But it's some sort of horned diamond shape. I guess horn is a better word than horseshoe. So you can get a little creative with it there. Okay, let's see. So that pretty much takes care of his helmet. We're going to use a lot of color here to really render out his metal helmet. I might do a little line work there in just a moment, but we're going to finish off his shoulders. He's got this kind of collar, this big collar that runs over his shoulders. His cape will connect to that, though we won't see the cape. And he's got these these big circular kind of studs that run along that that collar. Just adjusting my face here. We're just adding a few more details just to really kind of bring home. I'm getting some ideas of what to do for the background, which could be fun. Just kind of indicating a shadow there. Now, we'll go ahead and render this out like I would if I were drawing him in a comic book. So knowing that his forehead there's the angle of his forehead, the top of his head, the sides of his head. I can put in some black here. Since I put the bridge of the nose here, I'm saying that the light's kind of angling from this way a little bit. So I can put a little more shadow over here. Run some shadow down the side there. A little less shadow over here, but I can convey some angles of his head, his / helmet. Maybe a little bit there. And knowing where his face is underneath there, it kind of helps me give a guideline on how to shade in some dark areas into his helmet. That part where the helmet cuts back behind his head would have some dark areas there. Okay, so that gives us enough information here to move to the next stage. And we're going to ink him up with some Pigma Micron pens. We're just going to use all blacks this time. I know I've been doing some color hold inks of late, but this one we're just going to have all black. So we have the 08, the 01, and the 005 are my go-tos. These are the ones I use the most. I buy these by the boxes. In fact, I need to go and replenish some of these. So let's start to pull in the inks. So I'm starting with the 08 because I want the option of a fairly thick line here for the outer contour of Magneto. So I can build the line to be a little thicker. And if you've seen my videos before, you know some of my approaches to my line weights. Thick lines can bring objects into the foreground, and thin lines can make them recess into the background. And also, thicker lines can convey where there's less light hitting, and thinner lines can convey where there's more light hitting. Or just two of the rules of thumb that I start with. And then things can vary from there. I like thick lines or I guess the third thing would be a thick line for the initial contour shape, which is like the kind of outer perimeter of his helmet, maybe the insides here in fact, all the way through the inside of the part of the helmet, around the face part, but then thinner lines for the details in the face, thinner lines for the details in the kind of maybe cross-hatching for the neck muscles and things like that. So that helps keep things from getting muddy. If everything was the same line weight, then it doesn't give the viewer's eye as much to play with. So that's something I'm thinking about, is that kind of eye candy, and that the variation is what can be really fun because we are subconsciously focusing on certain aspects and our eyes are kind of pulling in and pushing back and forth as we take in all the detail. So just getting the outer perimeter going here first. Even this inner part of the face here, even though I'm on the inner side, it's the outer part. It's that kind of constant line that runs for the entire perimeter of his helmet. Okay, let's Go ahead and take care of his neck and shoulders as well. I turn the page here like this so that I don't rip, because if I were try to ink like this and I want to go over here, because this ink might still be wet, if I put the palm of my hand on there, it could really mess things up. So it's easier if I just turn the page so that there's no risk of palm smudging. Or I minimize the risk greatly, I should say. I have to be careful for the hand holding on here. It could smudge as well if I'm not paying attention. And trust me, I am not a stranger to smudging line art. So just going a little thinner here as I pull these neck muscles down. All right, let's get the chin here. So since I know where that whole chin, that jawline runs, I can confidently drop in this little bit of line for his face, knowing that that chin is going to fit accurately underneath his helmet. Let's get some, we'll have some dark shadow under his chin. Maybe even deepen up the line here underneath the helmet because it's overlapping his neck. Okay, now it's because this thing, this little whatever this dealy bopper is right here, is in the foreground. We're going to ink it up too, so that because it's a three-dimensional shape that sticks off of his helmet. It's not just a design like this stripe, this jig-jaggy stripe around. It doesn't really stick off of his helmet, at least not as much as this diamond, this horned diamond shaped thing here. This is actually a chunk of metal shape that protrudes off of his helmet. So I want it to have a nice thick line too, because I want to create that sense of depth. And just try to mirror the shape as symmetrically as possible. So that gets me my base, or my base line weights there. So I'm going to switch down to a 0.1 micron. It's a bit thinner, so I can put in some thinner details here. The thinner lines are giving that eye candy, and it keeps things from getting muddied there. It gives it a nice, crisp, clean look. Now, every artist's style varies, so it's okay if you want to approach it differently. You're more than welcome to. You do you. That's what I love about comics, is that every artist can have their own style, so it gives us an infinite number of flavors. Now, many artist styles have similarities to them, and that's okay too, but there's also some variation and difference. So to create a bit of a three-dimension here, because I've studied this shape here, putting kind of like a shiny horizon here. So it's like chrome. So it's like we have the top part, like angles of the face, angles of this diamond shape. And so sky, and then the earth around him, the horizon, is kind of the approach to that. Now let's work in this purple zigzag trim. Going to stick with this 0.1 micron and start to carry this line around. Don't have to put a lot of variation in this because it's just a delineation between the red and the purple stripe on a red helmet. So it doesn't need a lot of line weight necessarily. It can if you want. Like I said, you do you. Feel free to get creative. But for the size of this shot here, I wouldn't imagine it giving off a lot of line weight or three-dimensional. I mean, this could be a three-dimensional stripe that kind of really sticks off of his helmet if one wanted to portray it as such. And if this was like a really, really close-up shot, like if this was like a close-up of his face taking up a full page spread, or full page, yeah, of a comic. So I'm working at 11 by 17 size, 10 by 15 inch image area, and I had a lot of real estate to play with, I would definitely consider really giving a lot of texture there. So let's see. Let's see if we can add some detail to his face now. So I'm going to start with the eyes here. And it looks like we will see some of his eyebrows here from this angle of his helmet. He's an older fella, so I'm going to put a few wrinkles around his eyes. I mean, he's not super old, but he is older. So, not trying to give him tons of wrinkles, but I'm trying to show that he's lived a hard life, you know. He's a bit more weathered. Now I'm switching to the 0.05 micron. This will give me an even finer, crisper line, so I can handle the details of his nose, because I got a lot of tiny little lines here I want to use to build his nose. Like the tip of the nose, then the nostrils here. You're watching this on your TV? Oh, that's fine. Older and wiser and stronger. I would agree with that. I think that's a good assessment of Magneto. He's got the little teardrop of the lip there, and then the sides of his mouth pulling down towards a frown. A frown? A frown. So I've indicated his top lip. I'll put a little shadow there, a little dark line for a shadow for the bottom lip. And kind of a little space between the bottom lip and the chin. Put some little wrinkles in the chin here, because that can kind of happen when we're frowning. For some people at the very least. All right, and then we're going to put in his iris and pupils. You can approach how you draw your iris and pupils, however, pupils, however you see fit. I like to put a little white highlight on the side of the eye. Like a little spark of life. Gonna angle his eyelids here a little bit more, kind of give him more of a moody, broody sort of vibe. Don't confuse that with the easy breezy of CoverGirl. This is the moody, broody of I don't know, a mutant world conqueror, would-be world conqueror. He has yet to conquer the world, but he's tried a number of times. All right, so now I'm going to go back to, actually, you know what? I think it will be kind of a nice trick here. We can try something new, maybe learn something different. My zebra brush pen. My zebra brush pen here is a disposable brush pen, so it gives me a lot of give to the line. So I can come in here and I can start to create these organic shadow and reflection shapes with my brush pen. So I can get that kind of chromy, reflective texture I might desire. I could do this with the microns if I wanted, but I thought, you know what? Let's go brush pen. Just gives me a chance to kind of demonstrate with a different tool, because I do use my brush pens in my actual comic art work when I'm drawing the pages. In fact, I was really going to let that fill out with a lot of black there. So I like to break up the line because this is a shiny metal helmet, and so it's reflecting the world around him, even though it's all warped by the shape of the helmet, and you're not going to maybe not necessarily see the exact reflection of whatever he's looking at. You could, you know, like a mirror, you could do that, but for a space this tiny, I don't know how reasonable that would be. So it's easier and just as communicative to do these amorphous sort of shapes. It gets the point across. So less on this side because there's a little bit more light on this coming from this direction. And then, so it's starting to give some depth to his helmet. In fact, now look at that. I want to go ahead and fill this spot in here, give us some more darks around the center of his head. Maybe that's casting a little bit more of a shadow on that side. Okay. And that will work for that. Now I gotta give that a moment here to dry. I don't want to risk smudging the ink. It dries pretty quick, but I do want just to give it just a moment here. I'm gonna carefully erase. I'm using my Statler Mars plastic eraser here. Just erasing very gently. Don't want to risk smudging. I also have my kneaded art gum eraser here. Which is also a great erasing tool as well. So just pulling out all those guidelines. Love his eyes, ready for the X-Men. Yes, he is probably gearing up, like, You're here to stop me again? I don't think so. Ich denke nicht. Is that how you'd say that in German? I've been trying to study my German. Ich denke nicht. I think not. I don't think. I gotta keep practicing my German. But since Magneto's from Germany, I figured he'd probably speak German. Or know some German at the very least. Or was he Austrian? So now it's time for the Copic marker color. I'm using Copic sketch markers. You're Austrian. Well, hello, Levi. Is that how you pronounce it? Welcome. Willkommen. So we're going to use Copic sketch markers, but you can use whatever colors you have. Colored pencils, crayons, Crayola markers, watercolors, acrylic paints, whatever you got. Whatever you got. Looking funky fresh. Word, straight up. So now I'm gonna start with an E01 using colors a little bit darker than I would use if I were coloring this on white paper, because I'm accounting for the purple of the paper. So I'm just kind of starting with the places that would be furthest from the light. And because he has this helmet on, much of it will be far from the light. And we're really going to play with some shadows here is the intention. Now the nose might be one of the few places that actually receives any sort of light or highlight. Maybe his bottom lip. So we'll be using a lot of this E01 to kind of start off with. And then when we come in with the grays, I'm hoping to really make things shadow out. I'm going to come in with a little bit darker of a shade here. Actually, I want to go a little bit darker now that I've started the process here. Some E02. Just to really get these darker shades. Going. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to use a lot of fairly darker colors right now. E11. I rarely use this color on Caucasian characters, but I think it will give me some good shadow. Or at least darker areas, I mean, for his skin. Let's come in with some pink here to go around the nose. Around the lips, even some on the chin here, a little bit on the cheeks, under the eyes. Just letting the pinks kind of blend with other colors to kind of give the character some life. Little R11. Now mind you, these are color choices I'm making because of the purple of the paper. I don't know if I'd make all these exact same choices if I was coloring on white paper. I'm having to account for the color of the paper. And this is E00 now. I use this a lot as kind of like my blending. This and the R00 I'll use just to kind of blend all these colors together. All right, now Magneto's eye color, it tends to be blue historically. As I double check my reference here on the iPad, it's often blue. Yeah, so we'll keep that tradition going and give him blue eyes. Let's see. So we got some B14. We'll start with just a little darker than mid-range blue. I like to put the dark right up next to where the eye highlight is. And then I'm going to come in with with a much lighter blue, a B01, to fill in the other part. To get a nice little crystal blue going there. Let's see. Let's tackle the reds of his helmet. I'm going to work dark to light. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a dark red, an R56. Not going to use a lot of this, but I just want a little bit of a base kind of dark red. So we're going to come in with lots of reds, other reds and oranges. Oh, I shouldn't say lots of reds. We're going to come in with some other reds, and we're going to come in with some oranges as well. Now the R27, which is more of a medium red. I'm going to kind of build towards my light source. Darker colors here on the forehead, lighter up here to create the depth, the kind of the angle. The forehead curves back to the back of his head. Now for some R24, another lighter shade of red. Leaving the outer perimeter all the way around the head for a more of a highlight color to come. It's going to be those oranges I was talking about. So I'm going to come in with some YR, yellow, red, 6-8. Popping this orange in here to give it a very vibrant red flavor. And some YR12, a very light shade of orange. To kind of blend everything together. And now the rest of his costume is purple, so we're going to use some shades of purple to kind of just get it to pop off the page here. So I'm going to start with some V15. And because we said the light's coming this way, darker colors on this side, kind of trying to convey that the helmet kind of curves around the face. So I'm not going to do exactly the same thing on this side, but we are going to show some curvature parts there. So it's like a little bit more lighter on this side. And then for the his uniform, I'm going to just render out the rest there. So remember, if the light's coming this way, the helmet's going to cast more shadow, his head's going to cast more shadow on this side of the neck. Less so on this side. More so underneath the chin. Maybe a little bit there on the Adam's apple. The harness here. The collar. Something like that. And let's come in with some V01. It's an even lighter shade of purple. Just going to kind of texture this all out a little bit. Because we got some grays coming in. It's almost gray time. So that kind of gets the base color. Now I want to put in shadows. Longtime viewers of my Post-it art videos know that it's shadow time, and the shadows are going to be cool grays. And we're really going to get some shadows up under his eyes here. This is where we're really going to pull out that moody, broody villainy. So I'm going to start with some cool gray 2. Just to kind of get some initial shadows going. If I'm ever uncertain about what color to use for how dark to make a shadow, I start light because I can always make it darker if I need to. So you start dropping these cool grays in there, and it starts to convey a realistic shadow. So underneath the nose, underneath the eyes, and we're going to get really shadowy with these eyes here. This is just barely the tip of the iceberg, my friends. Barely getting things started. A little of this cool gray in the helmet here. Kind of conveying some of these angles. Just kind of bringing that home. I can follow along the dark lines here of the shadow I put, or the reflection I put in the red part of his helmet. I can put this gray in there to kind of keep that shadow rolling. Rolling on through, so it's like, just like that. This is just wave 1 of the shadows. I gotta go darker. Gonna come in with some cool gray 4 to go over the reds. More shadow here on our right-hand side of his head because of where the light source is established. Sculpting out the shapes of the different elements of his helmet. Maybe a little bit more in that part of the cheek. Just a little bit on that side. He's saying the same cool gray 4. It's pretty dark. I'm going to start putting this all up underneath where his eyes are, because I really want that shadowed out. It's going to make him look much more moody and broody, even over those white eyebrows. Definitely underneath the eyeball there. See, it's really starting to, it's really casting that shadow, that deep dark shadow. That's what I want. And the cool gray 2 just wasn't getting me there. But that was okay, because I can adjust and go darker. Some dark running right down the bridge of his nose there. Dark right under the point, that center point. Some dark right under the tip of the nose there. Putting these shadows here, like alongside the sides of his, those inner sides there, creates that depth, like it's sticking off of it. Sticking off of his face. A little more shadow here underneath where the helmet is. A little shadow here on the studs of his harness collar thingy. Just adding some more shadow. This is a bad guy, so we want him to look as shadowed out as possible. I'm going to put this cool gray 4 into the top part of his eyeball, because I'm going to do my white pencil trick here. So it's darker than what I would usually do if it were white paper, but I want to put a little gray there, and like his eyelid is creating a shadow over his eyeball. Sculpt out that shape there a little bit more. Okay, So, so I'm going to come in with my white pencil. We'll go ahead and do this part now. Where's my sharpener? I need to sharpen my pencil real quick. Sorry, gang. This will only take a sec. I want to have a nice sharp point to my white pencil. And now I color over his eye, the white part of his eye, to give me white on the paper. Maybe a little bit of white on his white eyebrows. Not a lot because there's so much shadow on those eyebrows, so it's almost a moot point. But now I color over that gray I put on the white of his eyeball and the open part to give him white eyeballs on purple paper. So let's see. I want to create sort of a background fade so he pops off the page a bit more. So we're going to work with some neutral grays here. Let's start with the N7. We're going to do odd numbered neutral grays. I'm just going to start coloring in some chunks. And going to have some neutral 5. Neutral gray number 5 is a lighter shade. And then some neutral 3. Just let the brush tip dance across the board. And we'll stop there. We want to leave some purple of the paper here at the bottom of the fade. Let me see. I want to close off that spot right there. Okay. Now it's time for my signature move, the Uniball Signo white gel pen. We're going to put an outline around the perimeter to give Magneto here that pop off the page. So just a little bit more. Just like that. And then we're going to put that little white highlight that I drawn in. I'm going to put that right there in his eye. Gives his eye some life, some spark. Now let's see. I had an idea. I'm just wondering, do I go for it or not? His magnetic powers often have some sort of energy signature. So I was wanting to give him some sort of that classic Magneto kind of warping, that wow, 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 wow. That's the magnetic sound. That's the actual scientific sound of magnetics. Not every human ear can hear that, but yeah, let's go for it. He's radiating his magnetic field here. So just starting the wah-wah. I'm going to leave a little space here for my name, so I'm not going to bring it all the way down. And I'm varying how close and the distances, how close and how near the waves go. to give it a really organic sort of vibe. I don't want it to look too uniform. Magneto got them curlies. Yes. It's like an Ogilvy home perm for his magnetic field. So there, it gives it that wah 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 vibe. You know what? I'm gonna put some little highlights right here on his helmet, like it's a bright reflected light, just to give a little more detail. Just kind of little eye candy, just a few little details there. Maybe a little tiny reflected light hitting over on that side. That's about all I want to do with that. Don't want to overdo it. All right, let's grab my micron here and put my name and date on this. And today is the 6th, is it not? It is the 6th. 06 April 2020. Magneto on a brand new color of purple Post-it that arrived last night from my online purchase. So there we go. Yeah. Moody Broody Magneto. Oh, did I set this for PM? And according to the stream, it's, yeah, sometimes I guess I made a mistake when I was setting the thing. I set it for PM. My apologies. Well, for those of you who tune in at 9 p.m. today, look, it's already done. Yes, 9 a.m. I'll be more careful when I set my live streams to make sure I'm on AM. I try to do that, but wouldn't you know, sometimes when you set this on the phone and you're doing the little swipe, I guess it's swiped to 9 p.m. instead of 9 a.m. My apologies, everyone. Let's flip the camera around and we can sign off for this live stream. Got to readjust the rig here. Let's see, where's the camera? Doop, there we go. Click back in. All right. Gang, thanks so much for hanging out with me here on Monday morning for today's Post-it Pop Art, Magneto. This will go up on my social media, so make sure you're following me on social media. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. All the links are in the video description below. So if you're on any of those platforms, come join the party there as well. We have, I'm posting on most all of the platforms, especially Twitter and Instagram, for sure. Art of Todd Nauck Facebook page quite a bit. If you like what you saw, please leave me a thumbs up. It's greatly appreciated. If you'd like, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. Easy for me to say. If you're watching this on replay, all of you live viewers, thank you so much for posting all your comments and questions. I appreciate that so much. Thanks for all the interaction. Sorry it's hard for me to catch everything that you post since I'm focusing so much on the art and instruction. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you learned some cool tips and tricks about structuring your character, how to build a helmet on top of the face, maybe color, shadow, shade things. So hopefully this was a help to you. If you drew along, please feel free to post your version of Magneto on the social media. Hashtag it Post-it Pop Art and tag at Todd Nauck so that I get a chance to see it, especially on Instagram. So yeah, I can't wait to get Magneto up on the socials. So gang, thank you so much. Oh, and if you have a friend who might enjoy this type of art or type of content, please feel free to share my video with them. That would be great. And gang, tomorrow, 9 a.m., not 9 p.m. I'll be careful on how I set the schedule of the live stream. 9 a.m. Pacific time, we'll do another Post-it pop art, and that would be 12 noon Eastern time, 4 p.m. Greenwich time, so that if you're international, you can calculate what time that would be in your area. And if you're subscribed to my channel, just make sure you set your notifications to alert you when I schedule a live stream, so you're sure to never miss out. Gang, thanks so much for hanging out with me. It's always a great time, and let's try this again. Take two. Could you get the cue cards at the right place? There we go. Hope you have a safe and healthy day here as we're dealing with this coronavirus situation. Please wash your hands. Please maintain distance from others when you're out and about, so that we can knock this coronavirus out and get back to life as normal as possible. Gang, thanks so much, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Take care. Bye-bye.